Okay, good evening, and today is Wednesday, March 7th, 2012. This is a regular board meeting of the Brownsville Navigation District. The time is 6 p.m. If everyone will please rise. Reverend.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for your presence here tonight. We magnify you and glorify your name. We thank you for the wonderful things that you're doing here. We thank you for the stewardship of this board and the way that you're working through every individual from head to toe in this organization. Father, we thank you for increasing us. We thank you for the plans that we've even discussed and seen tonight. We thank you right now. We pray for those companies that are going to relocate, that are going to move, they're going to see this as a place of opportunity and prosperity, and bring opportunity and prosperity to our region. Father, we thank you for the discussions tonight. May your wisdom and your presence guide us, that all that we do would be to glorify your name. We pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay.
See, you don't want to show it off.
That's all right. No. The bottom. Okay.
Okay, item number 2, public audience. We have 2 signed up, but it's not in relation to an agenda item, so that will be at the end of the meeting. So item number 3 is receive director's report.
Everybody has the director's reports in their packet. Anybody have any questions of our directors?
Very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive. They were very good reports.
I compliment everybody on doing a great job of putting together a report that's very easy to understand and follow. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner?
I'm fine.
Okay, we'll move on.
Okay. Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 15, 2012. B, approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Item 1, Vulcan Materials Company, payment for limestone for patio construction in the amount of $615,859.40. Item 2, Geo Solutions, payment for purchase of GeoGrid material in the amount of $186,400. Item 3, U.S. Corps of Engineers, additional amount for district's 2012 match for feasibility study in the amount of $81,385. Item 4, RZB Inc. doing business as Global Electric, third invoice for the Twick Lighting Augmentation Project in the amount of $135,610. Item C, approval of the following leases. 1, Ricardo R. Martinez doing business as Port Restaurant amendment. Item 2, Oil Patch Fuel and Supply Inc. amendment. Item 3, SCC Pure Materials Inc. new lease. Item 4, White Ring Ranch LTD new lease. Item 5, SBI Seascape Inc. release of lien. Item 6, Mario A. Contreras doing business as South Texas Dock Service.
Anybody have any questions of these payments or the leases? Anything on the leases?
On the payment for the lighting, it says it's a third payment or a third invoice. Are we within the budget, or are they just billing as they're going along?
Yes, this is under the port security grant. This is the lighting on the Twick entrances, the lighting project that we're doing.
It is for work already performed, so it is on schedule.
Okay.
Actually, the bids had come in pretty significantly under the budget.
Okay. So there's no increases or anything?
No.
Not at this time.
All right.
Not today.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, the motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 5, consideration and action to amend the district's procurement policy and procedures.
In our procurement policies, we have authorization to join local or intergovernmental purchasing cooperatives. We have a number of them already in the policy. As we were looking at doing the roofing repairs on some of our sheds, one of our local contractors is a member of another purchasing cooperative, and he recommended that we go ahead and join this cooperative, so we have another source of procurement. And this is the interlocal purchasing system, which is called the TIPS, or TIPS and TAPS. And it was begun in 2002 by originating in South Pleasant, Texas. It's again with the school district, and we are asking that you authorize this as one of our intergovernmental purchasing cooperatives.
Are we purchasing the materials, or the contractor purchases the materials?
This project, I believe, where you're purchasing materials?
When you enter into a contract with a contractor, and there's several here in the valley, but when you enter into a contract with them, it's like you request a quote for a particular project, and then they submit a quote which has already been approved by the TIPS, like by board, like HDCA, but the materials and the labor and everything included in the.
But can we, as an entity, go through this and buy our own materials if we needed to?
I believe we can. I think Mr. Reese is probably familiar with it probably more than me, but I think we can buy the materials.
From what I know is that under the TIPS program, you can do that. Basically, the contractors are pre-approved, basically. So in terms of going out and soliciting proposals, you are entering into agreement with a select few of contractors that are being approved by the TIPS program. Now, if you want to have a project done where you purchase the material, you are able to do that. In essence, or receive a complete bid for both the material and the labor.
It depends really on the service that you're going out and securing.
Now, could anybody, any contractor join this?
They have to be pre-qualified, pre-approved by the TIPS program as far as what.
I guess my only concern, and if it saves us money, that's fine. I just don't hope we don't get ourselves in trouble that we're disqualifying some very legitimate buyers or contractors out there because one person can qualify to get into this and others can't. And I don't know if it's an unfair advantage to certain contractors at the expense of, I just don't know. And do y'all know that?
It could easily.
Well, what this does is, and I'm not familiar with this particular program, but what it does is if you buy through these, it satisfies your competitive bidding requirements. That's all it does. You could still, on any item, take bids or proposals if you choose to do that. All this does is to say, if you do this, you've met the legal requirement to take bids.
But I guess my concern is, I have a company and I qualified because my capital is X. I don't know what the requirements are. And Commissioner Cowan has a company and it doesn't qualify for it because he doesn't meet whatever they require, but yet he's very capable of doing the job. And that's the only thing I worry about is, are we going to eliminate possibly local vendors at the expense of maybe some very large companies that may not even be in our market? And I know we try real hard to keep everything.
I know the one that recommended is a local vendor.
Right.
The one that recommended
Right,
was
yeah.
local. However, it's a very
I think we're asking for this approval not to purchase from them all the time, from whoever it is. Again, there's 2 or 3, maybe even more that are TIPS, TAPS certified. But just to have that option, because sometimes there's a project that needs to get done, real quick.
You've told me you don't know if you can buy direct from them, but yet the vendor can. And I don't have enough information to make that decision tonight. In my opinion, my fellow commissioners do, but I really don't want to do this and then at the expense of some of our local vendors if if they can't qualify. I mean, I'd like to at least know the minimum qualification standards of this organization, and I'm sure they're bare minimum, I mean.
Right.
But, you know, and because if it's pretty easy to join, then we should be encouraging a lot of our vendors to join, I would think.
This is basically what, except we went to the buy board, but when we purchased the equipment, I got the 3 vendors, the John Deere, the Caterpillar, and Case. Now, they're all buy
Well,
board.
that's a buy board, and I understand this. This is something, it doesn't sound like we have enough information on. At least, I don't have enough information. But, like I said, I mean, if my fellow commissioners may want to vote on it, that's fine by me too. But I just don't want to cause someone in our community harm by not being able to bid because they can't qualify for this, but yet they can do the job.
Let me tell you what my concern is on these cooperative kind of deals, and we talked about this, I talked about it with the staff, is that, you know, there's a difference between equipment. You know, automobiles, for example, you can price the automobiles and determine what the price are. It's a little harder with services, and the concern I have is that, you know, we might get too comfortable with the process where we don't go out and see how do you qualify whether you're getting a good bid or not. I can see under emergency situation, you need to react real quickly, and you already have a pre-qualified list of vendors that you can go to, but, you know, we have multiple cooperatives. This particular cooperative is used by City of Brownsville and the county, as I understand it, and it has a local vendor who is a member of it. You know, I don't know that if we go out and solicit bids for a particular service, you know, there's things we can do that will prohibit people from participating, requiring a bid bond, you know, requiring insurance. I mean, you know, there's certain things you do to kind of protect yourself to just be able to do that. You know, here it's just, I think in this particular case, it's another service that's out there that, as Mr. Renfro says, that will satisfy your bidding procedures that you can utilize should you choose to use it. I don't think that, you know, we have to have it. I don't think that will it be beneficial, conceivably. But, you know, the thing that I kind of concerned about is that, you know, it makes it really easy rather than going out and putting together a bid and going out that you can just decide, well, you know, here's a company that's already been qualified, let's just use them. It's a little harder with services. You're talking about contract services versus, you know, buying cars, buying equipment, and so forth. And you know, we already have a few services that we're already members of a few purchasing cooperatives that give us that opportunity. I think this, in many respects, was at the suggestion of a vendor that we do utilize, who is a member of this cooperative, who said, hey, you may want to look into this. This is something that could facilitate your service delivery if you so chose to use it. But, you know, hey, if we're not comfortable with it, it's not going to cause us any harm at all.
Well, I think the chairman brings out a good point that if we don't know enough about this this agency, and there's not, and basically if we cut out all the local businesses, if they're not able to participate in this process, then we will be cutting out a lot of these local businesses. We don't want to do that. So if we have an opportunity to look into, you know, this company or this agency and how they facilitate or allow other local companies that provide services or goods to participate, then I think we'd probably be more comfortable.
I know I would just know a little bit more about it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table this for today and bring it back when we have more information on this.
Okay. Motion to table, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Item number 6, consideration and action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Item 1, Oscar A. Gonzalez doing business as GNZ Truck Service Authority to negotiate.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Oscar A. Gonzalez doing business as GNZ Truck Services is requesting to lease the ex-Brownsville Machine Shop site for truck parking and an office. And the staff is requesting authority to negotiate with this company for that site.
Is that the place you're on 511?
On 511, yes, sir.
The only, it doesn't matter who's renting the property out, Mr. Campirano. I think since for the fact that it's on Highway 511,
Yes.
we need to put some, I don't know if we can do this, Mr. Renfro, some word or some, how do I say it, not orders, but the city of Brownsville tries to beautify its place. And so if it's on a public, in front of a public highway, and we know it's our property, but I'd like to have it clean, at least in the, and like I said, I don't know this person, and I don't have anything against anybody, I just think, Mr. Chairman, that we should show a good face to,
Yes.
especially the front part of
They
our.
have been notified that they need to put a fence in, stabilize, and when they put their office, do a green area. And so they're going to provide that plan for us, and they've agreed to do all those things.
And it's in
And we
writing.
have advised them. Yes, sir. They're a partner with Seahorse Transport,
Okay.
with this company across the street. So that's,
We have to approve that plan before the final lease.
Okay, perfect. If it was inside the port, it was something different, but it's right on Friday.
Well, I think some of those concerns are still valid inside the port.
Yes.
To talk about them, so that you can drive around and see where,
So,
you know, that also is the case.
But this is our front door, and
Yeah.
thank you.
Point well taken.
Very
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Move in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item 2, Cayetano and Miguel Alvera authority to negotiate.
these two brothers are requesting to lease the ex-Ruben Barrera site that was used for grazing. This is approximately 3,260 acre site, situated off of Highway 48 and at the port's eastern boundary next to Port Isabel. So,
And it would also be for cattle, for
it's
grazing
just,
lease.
yes, for grazing. The staff is requesting authority to negotiate.
Motion.
Okay, motion?
Also,
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, CCGS Holdings LLC, Crown Castle authority to negotiate.
This company is the tower that is east of the fishing harbor. Their lease expires, their current lease expires 2016. They're requesting to add 2 additional 5-year options. They had sent in their form. What the staff is wanting to do is receive authority from the board to extend, review the contract, and make sure they are paying us for subleases, other antennas that they have attached or erected on that site. And so there is also special language in there on that site. Should we need to extend the rail, that they would remove the tower or move the tower wherever it needs to be moved, another site suitable for the tower. So they have agreed to the new rate of $17,000. Right now it's $7,200 a year. And the new rate for towers is $17,000. They've agreed to the new rate and have agreed to yearly adjustments. So those are all the things that they've proposed.
How much acreage do they pay?
They have 100 by 100 foot site.
Where do they go?
And the staff is asking for authority to negotiate.
Any other questions?
And they are willing to move it if we need to?
Yes, sir, that's in the contract already, language.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 7, consideration and action to approve memorandum of understanding between the City of Brownsville and Port of Brownsville regarding welcome sign on state property.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is a project that's kind of been talked about for a while. Last summer, you had a presentation from the beautification committee. on the proposed, it's a monument sign, it would be on port property. We're talking about property as you come into the port from Fort Israel on 48, just west of the U-Pullet site. We finally got the language and all the conditions that kind of got the project going again. And so the beautification committee did take it to the city commission yesterday, and the city commission did approve it. And our agreement with them had been that we would collaborate on the sign, that we would invest up to $30,000 or 50-50, but no more than that. If it winds up costing more than $60,000, we're not going to put in more than 30. In this particular case, we'll be providing the site, and we will be providing the water to the site. The city would be responsible for, or the city in this case, would be responsible for the site survey, for the electrical service, for the maintenance and operation, for the bidding, the construction, the design, and all of that. Right now, the plan is that on 50-50, that the budget would be, they've got $30,000 as their budget. And so at this point, ready to move on that project. So you're asking you to approve this memorandum of understanding, and so we can move on with the project.
Mr. Campirano, the city is going to maintain it after it's...
Yeah, they'll be responsible for the maintenance of the sign and the landscaping and all that. All we're providing is a meter to the site for whatever water may be needed for irrigation, whether it's a drip irrigation system, and I suspect it will, because, I mean, that area, you're going to have to put something pretty hardy out there for it to survive.
Is there any language in that, Ms. Commissioner? It also brings up a good point. Is there any language in there if they don't take care of it?
Well,
what our recourse is, I mean, obviously, we can go clean it up, but...
We can't. We don't want to.
Right, exactly.
I guess if it gets to the point where we don't believe the project is more of an eyesore than it is, we tear it down. It's on our land. But the goal is to have that sign. I think you can see the information from their presentation. But
and again, Commissioner Nelson brings up a good point. And nothing against the city of Brownsville, but we know they don't take care of things like we would like them to for lots of different reasons. And if that thing gets to look really ugly, I'm just going to say, come remove it, or it may be 5 years from now. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think that maybe 10 years from now.
Yeah, and so I just think we need to have something in there to protect ourselves. Is all I'm saying.
Well, I know, but at the same time, the city of Brownsville has a lot of signage around it, has some good, pretty vegetation.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying
they have some very, very nice signs.
They have great stuff. I'm just saying historically they don't take care of things properly. And all I'm saying is, since they're putting it on our land, we need to have some recourse to say, guys, it says here in the agreement, you're going to take care of it, get rid of it. It's been 3 months or 4 months we've been trying to get you to take care of it. And that's all I'm saying.
Have language in there.
I recall that this design that they were presented to us, but is that going to interfere with I know we're putting little roads in the back to have access to the properties in the back.
No, this is east of the U-Pullet site, so it's not, it will not interfere.
I think this is good. I think it's great, and I just want to make sure this port's protected way after we're gone. But
I would suggest you table the item.
What's that?
So they can change it.
Because they have a contract here that we have to approve with the city.
No, we should approve it subject to
that.
Subject to them adding an amendment that they will maintain. Right?
Yeah, I mean, if there's some
Well,
recourse.
I think it needs to be more than that, because there is language in there that says they will maintain it. It's
If they don't maintain it, look.
because it spells out in their responsibility that they are to maintain the project. If they don't maintain it, or if we ask them to remove it.
We just have to have that option to do that. And that's all I'm saying. And if we need to table it to get that, or sign it subject to them changing it, then either way.
One of the things is they've been trying for 3 years to get this signed.
So that just goes to show you how long it takes for them to do anything.
No, it hasn't been all there, it hasn't all gone, there's a lot of history as to why this is happening, but from the first phone call that was made to us, and Cynthia Carvalho was on the beautification committee, it's been 3 years. So, you know, I hate to put this thing off. I really think the city of Brownsville will do well in this, but again, it's just, I just hate to table this thing, you know.
Well, I recommend we table it. So,
I'll make a motion on that, Mr. Chairman, we can go ahead and table that and come back until the commission is satisfied with the language on it.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, consideration and action on authorizing the Brownsville Navigation District salvage team to develop a plan for disposal of used oil from port facilities.
Mr. Chairman, we received a proposal to have someone come in and remove used oil from the disposal site, in this case the ballast tank for sale. And we kind of discussed it, and we think that there needs to be a more definitive plan developed to do that. You know, I guess the first thing, if we even want to consider it, let's qualify that first, if we even want to consider it. You know, we've got some history with having been stuck with a liability for having a contractor who was removing hazardous material from the port and wasn't disposing of it properly, and in the end, we're the ones that got giddy with it. So, you know, I think that's the first order of consideration. I mean, if this is something we would even consider. If we would consider it, then I think that we need to develop a plan. And since, you know, the oil could potentially be listed as a commodity that has value, you know, we do have a salvage team that assesses items that we decide to dispose of. So I guess the first question I would pose to is if this is something that we would entertain, even if we're, you know, considering the case that I refer to, and some of you may recall it, have seen it in past discussions, is the Baldwin case, the Baldwin site, where we got stuck with having to clean up a site in Robstown. And in fact, I still think we're still doing some monitoring there for that project. And so, you know, oil can be, and is considered, especially used oil, a hazardous commodity. If we do decide that we think this is in our best interest, then we should have a plan that tries to identify as many liabilities and certainly protect us. You know, in the end, can we be absolutely sure that the person who says that they're going to do what they're going to do and remove it off-site or sell it somewhere else, you know, whether we'll build whatever assurances, you know, remains to be seen.
Is this oil that the port is generating, used oil that the port is generating?
Port facilities generate.
Okay.
Well, we have this, you know, we have a ballast tank, so that's a place where we allow people under certain conditions to go and deposit. And in this case, whatever oil is there, they want to remove. And they want to, essentially, there's a market for, you know, recycling this oil.
Well, I mean, Daniel, you fought that fight for I don't know how many years. Is this something that you think is even worthy of us pursuing, or?
Well, I think we need to find out. I mean, it's possible that it's got some value, but sooner or later, we're going to have to dispose of it somehow.
Right.
And what happened before, unfortunately, is that the company that removed it went out of business and had no insurance. And so the state came out, and we actually got a fair amount of money out of Exxon and Texaco to reimburse us for our cost, but theoretically, our name's on that oil forever. But we don't know right now whether giving it away for the cost of removal is a good deal or not. There might be somebody that would buy it because waste oil does have value. But I think we ought to find out, simply because sooner or later we'll have to deal with it. We can't just leave it there forever.
So what we're talking about doing here is putting together a team to come back and go out and find out what's going on in the market, and come back and give us a report so we can take and a recommendation for some action. Is that
That's
Do
correct.
you
What
want
you're saying is
assessment, basically?
authorizing the salvage team, which we already have, to go ahead and look at putting together a recommendation on the disposal of used oils in port facilities.
I think that's a good idea. I'll like to make a motion to do that.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 9, consideration and action on renovation options for the command center funded through the port security. Gentlemen, we have Mr. Roberto Reese here to go over a couple of different options that we have on the renovation of the command center.
I have a PowerPoint presentation.
Before we start, Roberto, I know there's a recommendation by the committee, which is consisting of Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Cowan, and Donna, Eddie. Unless the rest of the commission wants to hear it, why don't we just look at the option that they're recommending? But for the sake of
And I
time.
want to be clear, what we're talking about is just adopting an option that puts the architect to say, go into, we're not agreeing to go out for
Right.
bids on this option
Right.
to do any of that. All it is that we've had some discussions about whether you knock the walls down, you don't knock the walls down, how do you do it? And the committee did essentially arrive at saying, look, we believe we ought to stay with the original option, which is to work with the existing structure, do not knock the walls, and work with what we got. And so what we need to do is provide clear direction to the architect on which option to pursue. And that's all you would be doing today. You would not be authorizing to go out for bids or any of that. We still got work to do on the cost, on the budget, and refining that option.
If that's okay with my fellow commissioner, unless you want to see the 2
No, I read the two options. The first option, does that have the option for the Coast Guard
Oh,
facility?
yeah.
Yes,
Both of
They
them,
both
yeah,
do?
both of them,
Okay.
yeah.
That was-
It's just that one is, again, it's really talking about the physical aspects of how you approach the project.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the end, even if you with option one, as you said, you're gonna get a building that's gonna be like a new building. You may or may not get a new roof. That's a decision we can make at bid time. The exterior will look new, but you're gonna use the confines of the existing structure to work with.
So I guess my only concern, I think, with the two options is, the one option, we're working with the walls as they are, and then the other option is tearing down the walls, I believe, and starting from.
Well, can I interject?
Yeah.
Really, the two options are based on more for discussion than anything else. The original option that we came up with was basically to come up with an assessment of the building, which we did. We provided a very thorough assessment, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, environmental, and all those areas were looked at to see what the condition of the building is. It was built back in 1982. It's 10,300 square feet. That's a retail commercial shopping center. That's what it was built for. And so what we're trying to do now is adapt it to a command center. The command center has certain requirements that need to be provided for. And at the end of the day, it's a building that's not going to fall down. It's going to be all current codes. Either way, you go with it. Committee met with great lengths. We discussed it. We reviewed it. We wrote it. And then we said, now let's meet one more time. Let's make sure we understand completely where we are at this point. To make sure that we don't bring you information that's not realistic. There's nothing worse than unrealistic information. So, given the fact that we do have grant money application that we have, $1.3 million, we have grant that could be used from the Coast Guard, from the facility. All this offsets the cost. And the recommendation is from this committee to go with a 1.8. There is, a payback period for that. It's not going to be a payback period in 1 year. It is going to be a payback period using those funds for you're getting $1 million free. As part of this grant. And so that grant is applicable to this work. The $2.5 million basically provides you with a different type of structure that if you wish to do everything, that different way, that will give you that option. But, like I said, at the end of the day, the 1.8 is a workable figure, workable number. Like Mr. Capitano says, we're still having to cut it back because all these are estimated budgets. We have to provide, essentially a more understanding as to, or understand better the needs as we proceed with this thing. But there are some things, we need to consider. The building itself, as it is right now, does not have the true height that you would like to have on a command center. It's a retail shopping center that has low ceilings, and we will have to work with that. If the budget constrictions are that, then we cannot provide that option of raising the hat, if you will, taking a hat and giving it a different perspective. We'll work with what we have, and that's what it is. The roof, Mr. Capitan alluded to, is there's some concerns there as far as water ponding, and the way we will have it under the 1.8, we're going to retrofit that roof. It's not going to be a brand new roof. If you go for the 2.5, you will have a new roof. But I think overall, we'll be sharpening our pencil to make sure that we provide the best possible use of this building with the money that we have.
Roberto, weren't we also, when we were talking about, we discussed when we bid it out, that we talk about the partial roof replacement or total roof replacement and a bid as an option from our contractor?
Yeah, the roof that you have is a 7-year roof into a 20-year roof, I believe. 15-year roof. And you're halfway there on that roof. It meets TDI, that roof does. So the option Mr. Powell was alluding to, yes. One of the options, having an alternate when we get ready to bid it out, to have the contractors give us an alternate price for what it would take to put a brand new roof, insulated roof, in its place. Currently, right now, under the 1.8, you'll get a roof. It'll be waterproof and it'll be watertight, but you will not have a brand new roof. You don't have to modify that roof.
Assuming the board approves going with option 1, and like Eddie was saying, you're going to design it, and then you're going to bring it back to the committee first to scrub it, and then you'll make it come back. That committee will come back with a recommendation at hopefully 1.333, right? I know we're going to go for bids, but that's what.
Yeah, the next meeting we'll have a task order for Mr. Reese. We're gonna, he's gonna give us his task order to do the design work on this. So that's going to be the next stage, and then he'll start, and then.
My main thing, I just want to make sure the committee is back involved in it, but before it comes to us to go out for bids. And so that's it. I know Eddie and Donna, but I just want to make sure everybody else is involved.
The grant money that was done at that time was, it was an application for money to do something with that building. The assessment that I did just came in months ago. Yeah. So we've been working for the last 24 months, or at least a fourth time to get that money.
Right, I understand.
That money. Yeah. The 1.3 is a value number that has some meanings, but the meaning really comes down to the evaluation report that we perform. That's the key to making sure that building.
Right. And the $1 million mark was the max that they would allow us to apply.
I understand.
And we never looked at the building, so we just applied.
Right. I mean, that
hoping that we got the
the
grant
most,
when we got the grant.
Now, I'm sorry.
The $1.3 million includes $300,000.
Yes,
right.
That's the max.
$1 million.
Yeah,
that's
Right, I understand.
$1 million.
Now, I know there's and John's here, but there's a timing deadline. Roberto's going to bring this back hopefully in a month, whenever we have our next meeting. And the committee will have looked at it. Then it goes out for bid. At what point does the clock start ticking? Or is it already ticking and we're way behind?
It's ticking.
The clock's already ticking. What we've asked for is an extension through May 31st, 2013.
Oh.
And we've received informal approval. We're waiting on the final approval. That wouldn't be the limit of what we can ask for, but FEMA doesn't want to get that anymore.
Well, let's say they refuse it. Can we even do this project in the timeline? No, we couldn't do it, right?
Well, the key is to have the money obligated. So, say that they did not give us an extension. As long as we had a contract, it's bid out and there's a contractor, would that suffice as having the funds obligated?
It would be obligated, but then there'd be a 90-day reconciliation period on that.
And there's no way we could get it.
Yeah. Now, what we could do is identify major components. There's some pretty large equipment components in there, generators.
Well, I get what I don't want to do is have this commission and the port fall into a trap where we go out for bids, we accept the bids, we tell the contractor to go, and they reject it, and all of a sudden we're obligated for $1.5 million out of own pocket, or $1.3 million, whatever the number is.
I would think before we would approve a contract, we would make sure to have that in hand, and that would be something, if not, some sort of language contingent upon approval.
Okay.
But no, you're absolutely right, that would be a horrible situation.
Yeah,
This
okay,
is probably
correct.
like 9 months, and we're going to be very, very close to meeting that deadline. You know, given the fact that the building needs to have nature, so we renovated. It's going to be required, you need code, it's all plumbing, electrical, everything. So we're looking at least a 9-month period for the reconstruction of this building and cycle.
Well, Commissioner Lopez is chairman of the committee. Do you have anything?
I mean, I just want to thank all the committee members that are in this committee, Commissioner Cowan. But I don't know how to tell everybody that we really have to sharpen our pencil, Eddie. I mean, yeah, with a projected forecast of 1.8, but we really have to knock some stuff down. I think we can bring it down some. I don't think it can be doable at 1.3, but maybe find somewhere in between where we can work with that.
But and part of the options also is to work the financing as well,
Yes.
because obviously, you know, $1 million grant plus leaves from the Coast Guard, that is applicable dollars to the funding of this project. I'm not just saying that you can solely rely on that. You still have to come up with money out of your pocket to come up with the difference.
I was just doing some figuring while you were talking. If you took the $1 million grant and you borrowed $850,000 at 5%, over 15 years, that's $6,700 a month, which is almost exactly what the rent from the Coast Guard is. So, you're right, you have to sharpen your pencil, but it does appear that you could come close to financing it if you borrowed the balance and pledged the rent.
And that, you bring up a very good point. When do y'all think you'll have an agreement with the Coast Guard?
We've talked to the Coast Guard. We've sent the negotiated rate up to their home office, and we've got commitments from the local and from the sector that they want to stay there. But I mean, that's a good, I mean, the Coast Guard is a government agency and they will not commit. I mean, we can sign them up for a 10-year contract, but
They'll be.
I mean, if they have no funding, they can't pay us rent. So, I mean,
Now, do they do rent year to year, or will they sign a 5-year lease? Or?
they sign a 5-year
Oh, but
contract.
it's year to year.
GSA, I mean,
But
GSA will sign a
it's year to
30-year
year.
contract.
All
But they have
they can
30-day
leave, yeah,
cancellation.
Funding. Of course, if they don't pay, they have to get out.
Right,
In
right.
other words, all of their leases are contingent on continuation of funding.
Funding, right. Okay, no, I got it.
The deal
The
with
state does it,
and the deal with the Coast Guard is if you know, we need to have some assurance that at least they're going to stay and work that out. If you know, in 60 days they come back and say, you know what, we're moving. Well, you still have to deal with the building. You may just not do the build out.
Right.
You whatever costs you can save on
They're about
that.
a third of the space.
So I mean, you know, there's options to look at, and then there are, you know, there's moving parts to this deal.
But they locally and through the corporate sector have said that they would like to remain in the building.
It makes sense for them to be at the port because
And we have some challenges as accommodating temporary, you know, being able to stay temporarily and this and that and the other. So I mean, this has got, like I said, this has got a lot of moving parts still. But
Well,
the committee is very active and will continue to be, and those are all issues that have been discussed and are well taken and will continue to be.
I know y'all done a great job. Y'all are sharpening your pencils and really looking at it. And you got your work cut out for you right with this group.
I mean, this is just his estimate.
I understand what it is, yeah.
You know, hopefully it'll
We
be
did
like the
pretty good with the
Siemens Center.
seafarers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
no,
hopefully
that's
it'll be
fine.
like that.
I want to appreciate the commissioners, but we have a lot of input from them. So,
Okay. I hope you don't mind us not seeing your PowerPoint unless somebody really wants to see it.
Everything that was we discussed, so you didn't miss anything on my part.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
There, any further discussion by any of the commissioners or anybody else that was on the committee? Okay.
I'd just like to ask, with the two options that are being presented on the table, you know, as the committee members that are on there, which ones do you guys tend to side with? Is it the A or the B?
It's option A.
we were in option A.
The other one would be too high.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not worth going to that extent.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
we looked at it.
you're modifying the existing, you know, the building was built in 82, and we put a lot of money into it. So one of the things the committee realized is how much money can you put into an old building to make it worthwhile? The 1.8 is closer to making it worthwhile.
Because we're gonna have new exterior covered, the covering on the wall will be new, we'll have new interior wall, interior ceiling, all the lights, fixtures, plumbing, everything else, and the roof will be totally waterproof, so, you know, or maybe new, we don't know yet, depending on how we bid that out. So, we're basically gonna have an almost new building.
And then understand that the timeline is
Very important, yeah.
very important for us, and the clock is ticking.
And if we tore the whole thing down, that would extend the time also.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to
I'll second that.
Okay. The motion is
To then authorize him to proceed.
proceed, that's correct.
Yes.
option A. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 10, consider an action to approve interlocal agreement and board resolution regarding membership in the interlocal purchasing system.
Table this item. That's paramount to the other items.
Yeah, okay.
I think you need to you had two items. One was to amend your policy, the other was to actually adopt the contract. So I think you need to go ahead and table it.
So second, that's what Eddie said.
That's what Eddie was saying.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's not been tabled.
Okay. There's been a motion table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 11, consideration and action to approve the purchase of roof repair services from Danny Botta Construction in the amount of $70,000.
Request this item be tabled as well.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 12, consideration and action to authorize the staff to advertise for bids for the purchase of hauling services.
We have typically used contractors to do a lot of the hauling, especially limestone and other dunnage to the landfill. This year, with the amount of construction that we're doing on the patios, we are going to exceed $25,000 in hauling services. So we're asking the authorization to go out to get a bid for bids on these things.
Good job on those patios.
Yep. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 13, consideration and action to authorize the staff to advertise for bids for the purchase of construction materials. A, up to 1,000 short tons of coal mix, and B, up to 600 short tons of hot mix.
We are currently advertising for limestone, and we would like to add cold mix and hot mix to this bid. It's what we normally do, combine all these three products together.
Any questions?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 14, consideration and action on interlocal agreement between City of Brownsville and Brownsville Navigation District Police Department for the use of the 800 megahertz public safety radio system.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. Before you is a new agreement that has been approved by the City of Brownsville City Commission on February the 21st for the use of their public safety radio communications by the Port of Brownsville Police Department Security, Harbor Master's Office, and PRD. The agreement is for 2 years. We could actually go beyond that if we need to, but for now it's for 2 years. It's at a cost of $15 a unit per month. So we'll be looking at about 42 units of police radio units using the system for $645 a month for the first year, $860 a month for the second year, and the cost will be covered under the grant, the fiscal year 2008 grant.
And we have a 25% match.
Well,
Okay.
no, that's for the equipment. This
For
is
the equipment.
for the service, right? For the user fees?
For the service
For the
fee.
user fees, yes. Correct.
Really, we had money in our grant to build our own tower, and then CVP came in and said that they were going to build a tower, so we reallocated the money to do something else. And so we still have money in there for the communication system. So John checked with our grant manager, and they said that yes, the leasing of the space could be considered under our grant, since we don't have the physical tower built yet.
Out of curiosity, how have the police department communicated with everyone before? By cell phone or?
Right now, they're committing by cell phone.
Cell phone?
It's just that we have an officer safety issue.
Right.
Of course.
This has a match, Donna, you said?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's through our grant. It has a 25% match.
Now, Eddie, since BRG is going to use some of this, could they also match some money?
Yes.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
to-
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
they have to,
Yeah.
just like in the past,
Okay.
we've had Transmontane and some of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
they provide their match.
Okay.
They're just included in the
Yeah.
grant.
They're in our interlocal agreement
Right.
that we have for our co-op.
Subject to this being approved, and the next item, to that being approved, we conceivably be on their system probably as early as May. So that's about 8 months into this calendar year. So
Now, does this also hook up with the sheriff's department? Or?
we're going to have the capability to, one, first, have our own talk group, so we can communicate between us here. Second, we're going to have access to the inquiry channel, the DPD. We're going to have access to 2 channels at the sheriff's office. And I think we're also going to have another channel for us to be able to talk just amongst police and security. Just the way the template is going to be set up.
That's for an item that's coming up.
Now, we've had we're gonna have like a lease agreement with them for 2 years, and that's because we're gonna wait for the tower to be built, and then we'll be able to use that for.
Yeah, the CBB tower is that we're going to provide them the space at no rent, and in return, they will give us access to the tower and access to the storage room for our equipment.
Okay.
That's what we've been working on.
But for now.
But for
So this
now,
would be
yeah.
temporary so that we
Yes,
can.
for now,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
But, I mean, honestly, we're looking at maybe doing this permanently because we're going to have to maintain that equipment. Right now, we have grant funds to buy that equipment, but going forward, we would have to maintain it, and if a piece of the equipment went out, we'd have to buy it. And so, you know, we're looking at that option. We're going to do what's best.
Cost analysis.
Right.
So yeah, we need to figure out what's gonna be most cost effective, either to have our own
Exactly.
and maintain it, or to just keep working with the city.
Right.
I think for the safety of our officers, we need to get this up and running as soon as possible. So
Now, the issue about the distance between here and the tower with the city, where are the towers? Is that the one at the police station?
Yes, sir. There's a tower at the police station. The other option, what we considered, was using the tower from the sheriff's office, but that's further away. So definitely reception could be an issue.
Yeah.
For the radio tower from the city of Brownsville.
But as far as distance from here, it shouldn't be a problem?
No, sir. If we go back in the history of the radio communications tower for the city of Brownsville, back in 1993, there was a lot of tests done, whereas two portable radios communicate as far as South Padre Island, and then mobile radios could communicate effectively as far as away as Harlingen. And then with the other towers that are up and running now for City of Harlingen and San Benito, and South Padre Island, and one in Comito, allows us to have 2 touch repeaters.
Okay.
In case we ever go
We
out
need
in that
to even communicate, because I remember they made a presentation once where they wanted to have a long,
radio interrupt.
so sort of like, yeah.
Yes. And that's the
Okay.
key here, to continue on the same path that the city of Brownsville and all the other agencies that have their own
Right.
radio system, is to continue the radio interoperability.
We could always allow the city to put equipment on our portion of this tower if that helped them upgrade their system and helped us, you know, keep integrated with all the systems.
This agreement was joined by Mr. Rambo.
And they can.
I think it's great that
Yeah.
we've gotten this. Yeah. You okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, if the city's equipment is good and working, so.
Well, and they're in the process of
Are they gonna-
upgrading the equipment to go digital, so we can be, I still say we, excuse me for that. That's gonna take a while. So they could.
Talking about wheelies.
Okay. So they're up and running with a digital system.
There's a mandate that everybody's supposed to go digital by next year, isn't it? By 2013? 15?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve this.
Okay.
Just include authorizing me to sign the agreement.
Yes.
Do we need to put in there also about the railroad contributing to this?
That's all part of
It's already in there? Okay,
They've
super.
already signed the agreement.
Okay, super,
Okay.
great. Okay,
Second, Mr.
motion
Chairman.
and second, all in favor? Aye.
Item 15, consideration and action to purchase 3 radio control stations, 36 portable and 4 mobile radios from South Texas Communications, an authorized Motorola vendor for the use by the Port of Brownsville Police and Security Department, Harbor Master's Office, and the Brownsville and Rio Grande Railroad Company.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, to myself and also we solicited proposals from 2 different vendors. One is a Motorola vendor, South Texas Communications, and the other one is TR Technologies out of Daphne, Alabama. The lowest proposal was submitted by Motorola, South Texas Communications, in the amount of $181,250.85. Grant funding covers 75%, which totals to $135,940.39. Matching funds are 40%, is $45,213.46. And the Port of Brownsville in particular, or it's more specifically, is $160,195.75. Of course, that's 75% of that is $120,446.81. The matching portion is $40,148.94. And then of course BRG would also match 25% of the costs. Their grant funding would be covered at 75%, $15,493.58, and their matching under 25% would be at $5,164.52. The warranty and the service for parts and labor is for 12 months, 18 months on the battery. The nearest service facility is in Brownsville, in the town. Over-the-air program availability, especially when the transition from analog to digital is needed, will be available. So there will be no need for radios to be removed from the officers and be taken to the radio shop. And finally, this is a preferred radio communications equipment from the city of Brownsville that we will be working for system.
The port's cost is about $45,000.
About 40. BRG's putting in 5.
Okay, about 40.
Chief, are these radio portables, are they going to be insured, or
I mean, we can put them on.
are the police officers going to be responsible for their?
They have warranties for 12 months.
No, I'm saying, let's say they drop it, they left it on the trunk, and they flew off, or
That's something that we need to finance for that kind of protection.
Because they are pretty pricey.
Yes, yes, sir. And
they are, those kinds of issues are issues that come up
All
when
the
you
time.
get into that, whether it's Brownsville PD or any other. But that's something that we're going to have to establish, rules and procedures for.
They are dual radios, so currently we're going to be working off the analog system, and then when they transition to the digital system in Southern Utah, we're going to be able to utilize the same radios and reprogram them over here.
And Chief, the only issue that I see with the equipment is that Motorola, we need this type of system to work with the one that exists with the city of Brownsville. But were there any other vendors we could have used? I mean, maybe perhaps got a better price, or?
Yeah, we went based on the proposal that Motorola submitted was through HEAC, Houston Galveston Area Council State Purchasing Contract. The other proposal that we received was from TR Technologies. Their proposal was about $5,000 more. And what they don't do for us is that they don't have their near source facilities in McAllen, but it required services severe, and those radios have to be shipped out to Carrollton, Texas. Second, they also don't provide any over-the-air programming availability. So we have to take the radios away from the operator, take them to the shop, and get reprogrammed, and then bring them back up. So we're still saving some money with that. And being that we are utilizing, we're going to be utilizing the Cedar Brownsville radio system. That's preferred. I really appreciate it.
Chief, this is your recommendation that we buy these?
It is.
Was there a request for proposal that was done on this, or these companies were initially contacted?
They were contacted because they both provided government contracts that were already in place. in particular Motorola, HTAC, John, Greg, TKR, it was GSA,
Yeah,
or DIR.
TKR was through GSA, the pricing they originally submitted. Originally, we had been going back and forth with Motorola for some time, and we kind of stalled.
We could have put this out, specified it, put it out for bids, probably been 2 to 3 more months. To me, officer safety is an issue at this point. I take the job, this officer is communicating versus cell phone. Anything they having to do with having to communicate, with the sergeant or with the harbor master's office or dispatching. I don't think that's very acceptable for some officer safety issue. I think we need to move on and move on. 2 more months is to wait and advertise for bids or do specifications, advertise for bids and come back pretty much
Chief,
about the same price.
You brought a lot, you were going where I was going. You've seen a lot, over the years, you've seen a lot of radios and bought a lot of radios, and if you had 200 and something officers at your previous employment, do you feel that these are in line? I mean, I don't buy radios, so I don't know. You have a better idea.
Version, the edition that Motorola has. This is something that will carry us here for the next 10 to 15 years because they are dual band, they're analog now, and later we can.
And you think they're competitively priced?
Because it's under a state contract. Yes.
Okay.
If you remember, we brought to you the going out and participating in the Houston Galveston for that specific reason, because they were the benchmark for the product and the lowest price and the pre-qualified price. And so that's why we went back through the government services in the case of them, Motorola, Houston Galveston, in the case of the other one through the Government Services Administration. So both of them do represent the benchmark for, competitively priced in the area. I mean,
if you all are satisfied with that, then I would like to make a motion that we go ahead.
I would just like to add before we go on there that I know that as a commission we have tried to open any business up that the port has to anybody, and we try to share that concept with everybody where the business is open, or we're open for business for everybody, and it's just not a select few. I would like to encourage everybody to continue that mental frame of mind, because at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we continue that practice. And I understand about the 3-month deal, but in all fairness, it's not fair for people that either are local or here in the valley or anywhere in the state to be able to participate in any process.
Well,
my point is a local vendor.
I understand that, but my point is that it's not open. I mean, it was open only to select few. Is that right?
No. I mean, bottom line is we were the ones who went out based on knowing that they could provide us with a proposal based that they already were pre-qualified vendors under some type of a governmental contract.
I guess, my point is real simple, it's like, did we tell the world that we were doing this, or we just told a select few?
Only to apply. I think that's what the commissioner is trying to do.
We didn't go out for.
Let me clarify something else. There is another Motorola vendor in the valley, but through Motorola themselves, they only allow Southeast Communication to submit proposal under the HTC contract.
Right.
So,
But we had no control over it. That's Motorola themselves.
And again, Motorola is the only game in town, right? It's the only radio station, or is it select one, or is it the popular choice?
Somebody's from Alabama.
No, but Motorola, would that be the only
well, you have a lot of
radio that would be
different
purchased?
Type of radio systems or radio product that equipment, but it wouldn't be compatible to what you need to use for the City of Brownsville communication system.
So Motorola is a good brand.
It's considered the top of the line.
Absolutely. That's what we use.
That's a good brand. We use it on.
Well, the county uses Motorola. I mean, everybody.
Pretty much everybody uses Motorola.
They're a standard in the industry.
Chief, the police officers and the security guards are both going to have radios, right?
We're going to have radios for police officers, security, for the harbor master's office, and 6 radios for the BRG.
Yeah.
And we have a cache of 4 radios for administration.
So, but you will speak you have a private line for just your officers and that they won't hear
Right.
other, there's stuff that you can't talk to
Well,
other.
the talk group will be between ourselves, police and security, and the HMO, because they do our dispatching chemicals. In turn, what security and HMO will not be able to do is will not have an inquiry channel from the sheriff's office or Brownsville PD, like police officers will, so they could, deal checks or some type of inquiry.
Well, are those gonna be going through the inquiries for background?
We're gonna have options to either use Brownsville PD or Cameron County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And they're okay with that also?
Yes, sir. I basically have visited with the sheriff officer in the past, and he says anything that we need, we will have. Before we enter into the interlocal agreement, I visited with the interim chief to get his approval before he comes to the system.
Okay, and I guess just to be on the safe side, are we in compliance with, is that, if we approve this action item, are we in compliance with our bidding policies and?
As I understand, it's being bought through one of these cooperatives. That's correct.
So we would be okay?
If you buy it under one of those contracts, that's correct. You either have to go out for bids or buy it through a pre-approved contract. And as I understand it, that's what we're doing, is
We're
buying.
doing the latter, we're not doing the
The Motorola program is to the Houston government.
You could go out for bids. As I understand it, the recommendation is that you not do that because of the urgency. But you could.
I just want to make sure we're covered on, as far as legally.
I still feel comfortable if we were to go out of bid, but, I mean, that's my own choice on that.
I think normally we should, but considering, and I agree with everything that you said, and that goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier. And Eddie alluded to that we got to be real careful about doing that, but I fully understand the chief's concern and what he's run into and trying to promote the safety of his officers. And so I think this should be more the exception than the rule.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Commissioner Ramos also trying to get across, and I
This
appreciate
is also
that.
in keeping with our plan that we brought to you to go and do the design build. All of these, we brought to you and said, this is how we intend on going and doing so. That was the reason for bringing the Houston Area Council of Government into this, because they are the Motorola vendor in terms of price point. And they designate a local vendor. So, that's also, again, in keeping with our plan when, I think you remember one of the goals was to try to expedite us getting the security programs going. And so we put them in a way that we would, manage the execution through our project manager. And so this is in keeping with our plan on how to execute this acquisition.
And if you remember, we bought the portable light towers through them because we did go out for bids.
You couldn't find them?
Yeah, and didn't get any bids. And so they helped us with that, yeah.
No. Any further questions or discussion?
Chief, if we approve this item, how soon will you have these radios in
service? Mr. Newman, pretty much, I give them, we issue a purchase order number tomorrow, probably 30 to 45 days, so the radios will be in his hands. The program shouldn't take that long, so we're targeting right now that we could be probably by the middle of May at the latest. With our radios in hands and being able to communicate with each other.
Time for hurricane season.
That cachet of 4 radios is really kind of the emergency operation.
Right.
We're not, Don and I are going to be running around with portable radios.
It's good being proactive in that regard, because, hurricane season is just right around the corner as well. We'll have all that.
Okay, Commissioner, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Cowan has made a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Item number 16.
Thank you.
Consideration and action to authorize court staff to advertise for bids on the lift station rehabilitation project in conformance with BND purchasing procedures.
Mr. Chairman, Court Commissioners, want to go out for bids. Motion. Get it. You want to see the PowerPoint? No.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You're good.
Hey, want to see the bridge?
No birds. Okay.
That's right.
Item 17, consideration and action to authorize the staff to approve bid and purchase cable voice road with refurbished sockets.
Good evening, Commissioners. Our Master Office is requesting permission to accept the bids which were submitted by the Kennedy Wire Rope and Sling Company for the purchase of the new wire rope and refurbished spelter sockets on the frame. Total came to $34,625.44 plus $500 for the refurbishment of our spelter sockets.
And that's a good company.
Yes,
Yeah, they're local. They're local.
They're local,
Yeah.
local, you can get here.
Yeah.
Corpus.
That's a good company.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
Second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
You want to do the, in that 3 minutes, right? Okay, we're timing. Okay, who?
We're going to move item number 20, the public comment period, because we do have some items for executive session. So the first person to speak, you have 3 minutes, is Steve Pettis.
Gonna be the official counter, Daniel? I watch it pretty fast.
I wanted to bring awareness to the report that came out from Alex Parker. That basically,
Thank you, Steve.
in the next 5 years, Mexico is going to overtake China.
Start again,
Let me get back to Mexico. My name's Steve Perez, and wanted to bring to your attention a report that Alex Partners, ALIX Partners, their consultants, indicating that Mexico might be the next China. That's our, next door neighbor, but they're not very good to bring traffic. The other item that I wanted to bring awareness is back to the long combination vehicles. Can you pass the slide?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
This is in reference to the long combination vehicles, which I believe is very important for the Port of Brownsville. I'll just briefly say 2 points. Basically, it's HR 763 that is in committee right now, but I think if you see in the bold, it will allow 126,000 pounds trucks on a very interesting 25-mile interstate segment or current, which I think that might be very good for us from the Port of Brownsville. Basically, what this means is that if you bring the double truck, you are going to ship, transport cheaper. It can be more affordable for the Maquila in Potosí or Monterrey or whatever. And that's another way to bring traffic to our center, to our hub, the Port of Brownsville. And if you notice there, it's in legislation. So if it happens to pass this year or next year, guess who benefits first? Right. Because we have a heavyweight corridor. And I think that's very important to be aware. That's experiment now.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
This person is Andres Espinosa with TechStot.
Good afternoon, my name is Andres Espinosa. I work for the Texas Department of Transportation out of the Secretary Office. And basically, I'm just here to let you know that I'm going to be attending your monthly meetings. And basically, I'm going to be, any issues or concerns you have on transportations, I will be forwarding those issues to my supervisors, and as soon as possible, I can respond back to you all.
You don't want to be in this group, man.
But we do meet bi-monthly.
Yeah, I'll be here twice a month.
Twice a month.
Well, I'll be here once a month.
Well, we meet twice a
Hey, you know what, that's really good.
Great.
It is.
We appreciate your time.
I'll for doing that, Director, so
Yeah.
I'll hold the state.
That's
Mr.
great.
Chairman, Mr. Espinosa has also been the point engineer for the roads project that we've been working on.
He and his team, and Mr. Jorge designated him as the liaison with the port.
So this is the guy that's going to get us our money back from all the
Well,
work Joe and his crew did.
He already did that. We already took care of that.
Oh, really?
I explained that to you. And in fact, it's in my report, but it's already taken care of. So
Thank you. What was the dollar amount?
It was a little bit more than what we had estimated because of underruns, basically.
About 200,000?
Like that.
That's good.
It's like 8,000 or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in that range.
Just very briefly on our ongoing projects, the major one is H551.
Right.
It will be completed in December of this year, 2012. And the ultimate 550, which is the connector of the expressway, has been moved up on the leading up to May 2012. And we have more ongoing overlay projects throughout Brownsville, which are going to be next month.
That's great. We appreciate
Once a
you.
month, we can expect for you to come in and give us an update.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I'll provide a short with a short update.
Yeah,
If you
that
have
would
any
be great.
questions, people or anyone who has any questions before the meeting, after the meeting, they can decide on behalf of the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 18, adjourn to executive session.
Okay, we have several items we need to